welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D Collective. All of those who are of our mindfulness living and loving, or spirituality living and loving people. So, with the mystics in 5D plane, you'll find that we know there's no Lucifer to be found, or monsters, or the whole, 4D collective. They're full on still with the shame and shaming and narratives, because their 3-year-old is not a whole 3-year-old, is how I'm going to put it. And so when you don't tend to become a person who unconditionally loves who you are, with integrity, with flaws, with imperfections, but with no shame or shaming, you continue to be a Cusco, is what I call those people, like the fancy man and women in suits. They're Peter Pans who have lost boys, lost days. So anybody who lacks healthy self-worth is going to be in that 3D, 4D insecure, shaming frequency, shaming, blaming, faulting, revenging. So they don't own their heart, body, and mind. It's not a safe space. It's not a secure space. That's why they don't want to do mindfulness practices or go to good therapy. And they've been looking to dismantle consistently. They actually go out of their way to pick on that, which instead, for those of us who are of the 5D collective, we're knowing very well how amazing it is. So for our heart and body and mind to be home and to be safe, and also to build healthy self-worth relationships. You get to identify those who are true lovers versus those who are pretend lovers. Okay, so we do not do shame or trust breaks. We don't project any of low self-esteem and direct communication, passive aggressive. The 5D collective, with mindfulness and spirituality living in daily practices, we're inner child adults. And we support those who are healing from trauma. So the topic is going to be a little bit of this and that. And I also have some lovely tarot with me, as I will be channeling a little bit from our messages as well. The amazing journey of growing relationship with others who are healthy, just like you, is that you don't have to be an Ariel who says to an Eric, "How dare you, Eric?" No. So with an Ariel who's empowered, what will happen in the story is, I'm not getting rid of my tail. I'm going to actually go and just immediately interact with Eric, and I won't be in a defectiveness, insecure state. And here's where I can totally talk to you all about when I was a teenager, and with the same, adolescent brain as anybody else, going through those breakups and people you liked and didn't like. And I didn't grow up to say, I'm going to change Maria. I grew up to say, I'm not changing Maria, to the extent of where in my relationships, when I've been told, I thought you would change, you should change. No, when I've been also shared that the way that I live, polyamory, travel, solo poly, so I'm not couple centric. I'm a person who has 24 hours and I'm invested in everything that I do, and I have a on clock, stuff like that. So men, women alike, they've all mentioned in the years their opinion, and I'm like, thank you so much for your opinion. I appreciate it. So if someone that is pretending to accept differences, for example, because there's those who pretend. What is pretend? Pretend means that you're not a person who owns the mental and emotional plane. And the depth of your plane is actually something I've noticed those who are not putting into practice mindfulness daily with their 16-year-old. So for example, you stub your toe, shit, it hurts. When you don't know how to be flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable, consistently, curious, open, accepting, and loving. These are Dr. Daniel Siegel's acronyms. So when you're not able to be an integrated brain with self-awareness, accountability, and regulation, I'm going to say you're a pretender. That's as a mystic, but really also as a 5D person. That's it. I won't come tell you, though, because I'm a Pacha and you're a Cusco. Oh, and that's because you got ego all over it, and you don't know you got some mustard on your chin, because had you wouldn't have done that, which is called projection in the first place. You wouldn't have brought yourself into the room in this way. So people who have trust breaks, shame, rigidity, chaos, they have unresolved shit going on inside. Yes, it will be noticeable, like the unhealthy, boundaryless people on the shame with that man. Am I not decent enough? or grandiosity, which is where I'm going to leave you and think that I did the great shit. And then, if I'm instead in the shithole as a grandiosity, I'm going to be, dying inside. If, on the other hand, I'm in the grandiosity of anxious, this is Terra Real's lovely little box for my regular listeners. They know how I do things. It's on a continuum basis because we're building a community here. So if you ever have questions, you can ask me, but I'm talking to community members. And then when the membership content is out, that's where we get mindfulness exercises, inner growth mindset. It depends on what I will think about, but also universal love transmission sessions for my lovely community who enjoys Reiki. So as I was saying, whenever an empowered woman or man meet people who have low self-esteem, it will come out at some point, shape, or form. Eric telling me, yes, I accept your tail, but then not really meaning it, is going to come through because you're going to use something that has me become aware that you disapprove, you find it shameful, embarrassing, whatever it is, but you're going to have an energy about it that is involving the external society, and it involves somebody is your ruler. So when you meet a person who is completely empowered, like a Sadhguru, and I'm going to say Dr. Daniel Siegel, I'm sure there's other names, you will know that there's a difference, Terry Real, with people who have healthy self-worth. They are non-reactive because it's equanimity. The emotion that comes forth is your love, oxytocin gene hormone, because my home is my heart and my mind, not you. And you doing this or that doesn't affect me because I only need one primary caregiver. And if I was raised in a home where I didn't get shamed, you're pretty much fucked, quote unquote. No, you're not. But then again, once you get to your adolescent years, that's when your second social system comes on, and that's when you make your first choices. But if you don't have, do not. If you do not have healthy self-worth, that's where you're going to see a lot of adolescents do a lot of stupid shit. I learned from my adolescent years. And in fact, I didn't bury inside anything. I just said, okay, hey God, hey Jesus. So I learned about all these unkind people. But I did learn what you told me, and I'm cool with forgiveness because I feel that's correct. I would want to be forgiven too. We're all imperfect, flawed. I accept that. I don't want to shame anyone, and I don't want to be shamed. Luckily for me, I can't be shamed because my primary caregiver never did, which is why I will hold people. Anyone holds another the way they were held. Thanks, Terry Real, for that data point. So smart therapists will inform people of how you work, and anyone smart enough to want to be their self will go and get good therapy and then come back around, which is where here is for when you're ready to be a healthy other, and or you're healing and wanting to be a healthy other, so your heart, body, and mind are safe to do mindfulness practices, to truly live out that spirituality journey, and then to build relationships with other open-minded, emotionally mature, aware, accountable, and regulating people and mystics. The level of intelligence of those of us who have integration of the brain is really awesome because our creative expression isn't lost, our novelty isn't lost. So we're all successful entrepreneurs, we're successful at our relationships, we're unconditionally loving. We are mystics, for example, knowing of the plane of the mind's eye, not being any battle between good and evil, but that we have 3D, 4D frequency who are going to stick around, and they follow fancy man and women in suit, and anybody who's talking again against all the good therapy, all the yoga, all the mindfulness, all of the ones who are wanting to use fight, flight, response. And that's why they don't know you cannot have no emotion. And they do not know the subject matter of you cannot have a unhealthy lifestyle with your restorative embodiment, non-reactive self. The way they prefer to use words is based on how they are wanting to express their emotional upset. And it's very clear to somebody like me because of where I've learned about the difference between restorative embodiment and modulated. In fact, I've seen it in my courses where people who are taking them don't know how to be mindful, and yet they're practitioners or good therapists. So we are together spotting, here's healthy others. We don't do characterological distinctions. We don't do casting stones. We don't do judgments. Eric and Ariel with the tail, it's all good. And we don't pretend. We actually say, okay, we have a society out there. It's going through change. So how do we address? Oh, well, by being people who can chit chat. We don't get offended, and which is why we laugh, like when I talk about polyamory. And one of the stories is this guy's like, well, all polyamory people are masochists. And I said, no, not the healthy self-worth ones. And then they're like, but that's hard. No, not really, but it's okay. So again, we're a bunch of beautiful, different people, and mystics and not. We adapt to our circumstances thanks to our flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable brains. And like Michael Jordan says, some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, and others make it happen. We heal not only our own self, and so we have emotions and not trauma charges, but when we do get some reactivity, we continue to apply mindfulness practices to do the very thing that we talk about. So for me, I keep learning how to spot if I have any reactivity and to disengage from it completely, because I'm the little choo-choo train that goes over the hump because I can, and because really it's beneficial. It's bliss. You grow bliss with your emotional plane once you have a relationship with all of those 6 basic emotions, with your whole self. So the 1-year-old and 3-year-old, you are that beloved, and so are others, because we're all light workers. We're all luminous. The ones who are the fancy man and woman in suit, they're holding the frequency of 3D, 4D. They want to say humanity doesn't have kindness, goodness, that psychopathy isn't something that can be worked with, or personality disorders. So they actively are trying to keep humanity in this limited space. Not really. Again, they can't keep anything. That's the illusion too. So the 5D person knows you can't keep intelligence away from itself, because you're not intelligent due to the fact that you're disregarding the intelligent ones. But you're using stories because you have a group. You're not actually using the crow's voice, even though you may make it look like the only ones who are following you are the insecurely attached. The ones who need Patrick Tiahan, instead they're looking at people, Peter Pans, and the Lost Boys are copying Peter Pan. That's the women and men, they're all Pinocchio on that island. So you'll notice the difference if you're 5D, who is a real crow and who's a pretend crow. And I will, nope, not that one. Although on a vision quest, let's see, that came out for a reason, but we'll wait for it. The rattle is what I was trying to get to. The crow and the rattle. So when you meet a crow, you're going to understand that the essence of the crow is the keeper of universal law, the law of truth. And truth is subjective when we look at lifestyle, religions, everything. So again, Little Mermaid with a tail or without. If we want to look at our laws are what keep us organized. When we're going through societal change, which is what's happening right now, that's exactly why the people who wield their words in a pretend way are the ones who are serving the groups of people who don't enjoy the change that we have at this moment in time. And so we have our 2 groups, those who will shame, blame, fault, revenge, and those who will not. And that's not good or bad, it just is. But the crow and the law of truth, it teaches us to walk our talk and walk our walk, to find congruence between who we say we are and who we really know ourselves to be. This winged one insists that we speak truth, that we create truth instead of searching for it, and that we bring truth to every situation we find ourselves in. So let me get the vision quest, because it did come out, so I want to honor it because I'm sure it has a purpose. Let's go to find that first, and then we'll do the rattle to end with, and then we'll finish up our conversation. I love to love, and I love to laugh, and I love to live. And I love to see that we have so many great people out there helping people who want to be their whole inner child, and then to move into doing mindfulness practices in this way that we can all know from the Enlightenment Soul Age group at least. The Zen Master, he's another one who's a placeholder for those who don't want to do the depth of emotions. And that's because using the temporal junction is really easy for a lot of people. It's, I don't want this. Life gave me a piece of shit. Okay, so in the vision quest, you face your fear, embrace your mortality, and then meet face to face with spirit. And here's why, when it comes to God, as I was raised with God, I told God, no Lucifer, no demon. Patrick McNamara proves what I had already talked about, which was I only see human suffering and people not knowing how to be real. And so Eric's saying, hey, you're cool with your tail, but then really not being cool with my tail, because you're going to spot whenever people don't like something, it comes out. So the not liking, there's two ways you do I don't like. It's with the 14-month-old who's basically going to be hostile towards the teddy bear that doesn't like the same cereal. And it's an energy. It's an emotional charge that you'll notice, which is why it's not personal, but it's called, I got a person and or a group of people who are liars for those of us who perceive, because that's what happens when you're an integrated brain and a restorative embodiment, self-empowered, enlightening person, is you're going to pick up everything that's going on in a room. I don't know, me, Maria, your host, and this person who, even before being a mystic, I said to people don't know about their subconscious, unconscious is very clear. And today I have confirmation. So when you see a distorted self, you'll know, because they enjoy shaming, blaming, faulting, and revenging. They are treating others the way they were treated, and they think that they are right. They're also vindictive because they're on an empowerment justice hiatus, or whatever the word is, and they will use a lot of different fancy words and names. You'll spot who the luminous warriors are when you notice how they unconditionally love all 8 billion and growing. And then they also understand, if we have children, Pinocchio, are you having fun on the island? They're just going to keep on talking about Lucifer, devils, demons, and how awful the era is. It's kind of like when Elvis came out and they cut his legs. So anybody who is against what is taking place at this moment in time, they're holding that spot for others. But also remember, all of our brains are actually really important, even the one focused and the enamored with oneself, because even though they're disconnected from consciousness, consciousness can only expand because we have duality. And that's why I'm a feminine and not a masculine, because there's never a threat to life, and a feminine will know that God always wins. So the ones who play like they want to be God, yeah, that's exactly where I've spotted them before. I still spot them, and it's very funny that they actually think that they can wield their words so well, but only for the, insecure attachment person, which there's plenty of lost boys, lost girls who follow these people, and they don't even notice that they are, because, well, again, they're not really on their own vision quest. They haven't faced their 1-year-old or 3-year-old. They find it hard to believe them first years of life, and they don't go to get Patrick Sheehan, childhood trauma survivor, healing therapist. They refuse to go and get healed. And so as long as you refuse to go and get your gut online, like a Bormate shares, your gut is not a good gut. If you have any broken stuff going on, meaning shame, defectiveness, any inner child that is still lingering, and I see so many voices out there. They're healing together. Sure they are. I mean, really, they're just standing around with their lovely little suits, but you'll know who is healing, because we're the ones who are like, okay, seriously, why are you all making this type of exaggerated, so for me, since I'm a mystic and I then do also mindfulness and life coaching and all this, it's a lot of, wow, we have mantles of mental health, spiritual bypassers, we got fancy people in cloaks pretending like they know what the fuck they're talking about, and then we got smart people, and that's who we like to learn from. It's the smart people, and then we hang around and say, hey, you want to come up with something together? And that's the smart entrepreneur. So the 5D collective, our level of intelligence, mwah. I love seeing those who are in favor of addressing what is going on. Oh, and we don't get lost with all of the information. It's bountiful and good for a reason. Oh, so when you come face to face with, God, that's none of our business. Of course, when we feel stagnant, vision quest brings our lives into perspective. We realize our flaws, our potential, and the opportunities life is now offering us. We remain on a vision quest until we find the key to open a new door or write a new chapter in our lives. And yes, that's for those who are rattling their own rattle. So the rattle guides you to be of support or to pray for all of Earth, not just for your own personal needs, which, by the way, if a person has the 1-year-old and 3-year-old brokenhearted, they're not thinking of all people's needs, because they don't even know how to tend to their own needs yet. They have unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms. They have unhealthy self-awareness. They don't have, in fact, they actually are the worst people that you would want to be around when you're healing, because they're going to project their insecurities, get spiteful, get in this stuff. So you would have to be double aware of remembering this, which is where you want to just notice if somebody does characterological distinction or judgment, that will give you a cue. And then you get to be the one who can decide, you know what, I can be here, which, by the way, is a bonus. If you do that, the capacity to learn neutrality as you're involved in, it's you differentiating. So it's, I am living life from my thoughts and emotions, and I like my tail. Eric doesn't like my tail, but he's pretending to like my tail, but I really know he doesn't really like my tail. I'm going to put into practice learning how to be more into unconsciously loving who I am and who he and or she and they, without really needing to feel upset about it inside. And it's not because you're pretending though. So you want to process the charge. You process the emotion not with a story, but with, I'm a person who has thoughts and emotions and I live a subjective reality. Eric lives a subjective reality too. He needs to be told, good boy, good girl, good day. He rules based on the external who tells him what's good and bad. So his nervous system and entire body is ruling based on others. That's really not nice of me to impose my way on him or they. Okay, so basically it's a discourse of, I'm going to be my own self. He, she, they is going to be their own self, and it will be based on their own upbringing, their own stuff, and their own desire to become more of their self or not. None of my business. So the rattle, again, you can pray for all earth. You can also not call it prayer if you don't want to pray. But all inclusiveness, in fact, our humanity, luckily for us, we're overflowing with an abundance of 5D people who say yes to differences. And the ones who are saying it with love in the forefront are the ones who are making the difference. Because it's not by yelling at somebody that you're going to educate and empower any person. By yelling at people, we only create more of divide. It's unnecessary. It's obvious that people are going to want to hang out with those who have similar interests, and you build a relationship with those who have the same ideas and ideals. That's actually why it's not personal. So we support all of those who are here and life in general. And then we do try our best to understand that some people are not going to move into the 5D frequency because it's not for all people to unconditionally love self and others with integrity and flaws. Some want to shame, and they want to be shamed. In fact, they don't think they're worthy of being loved unconditionally, and so they won't tame the wind. They won't tame the fact that there's no need for sacrifice and that magic is always around us, and that's because they don't want to learn how to let it go, let it go, no, 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 no. So letting go of a closed way of thinking, a rigid or chaotic way, and to be fearless and bold with softness, with the clarity and the wisdom of the owl, which is what comes from mindfulness practices and mindset, and you being a restorative embodiment self, aware, accountable, integrated brain, okay, regulating. So you have your third eye and your crown chakra, and that's where the beginner's mind again. So your prefrontal cortex is engaged because you use your mind wisely. You use your mind wisely as you say, hey left, what's up? Oh, hey right, what's up? Oh, I'm loving to do the mindfulness practices where I can breathe in awareness, believe in myself. So instead he wins the race. Watch my words, but I won't act as if I like Ariel. I will tell Ariel the truth. I will tell Eric the truth. So we don't pretend to be ourselves. We are our true self. And that's because even if somebody says, you should change, I don't like you, we say, thanks so much for your time. It was a pleasure. And you leave it alone. And again, the 3D, 4D frequency, they're insecurely attached. People who have defectiveness shame. That's why they're completely not enjoying mindfulness, spirituality, healthy self-worth. People, they're not enjoying the attachment trauma information. There's no valid reason, not intellectually and not emotionally, as a person who knows the restorative embodiment self. There's no intellectually and emotionally reason with the logic of all the neurobiology and neuroscience for anybody to be against the way that the good therapists are doing the good therapy, that they are EMDR, child parts work, somatics, sensory motor. The only logical, which it's not even about logic, it's that it's provable by being textbook. It's textbook the way a person who doesn't want to heal because they have the 3-year-old with shame, who's projecting because their body completely unsafe with a heart and a mind with a distorted reality, left mode. And so it's something that once you understand how the brain works with the left and the right, and when it's integrated, why it's effective, and when it's non-integrative, why you have an imbalanced scale. You got an inner child that never grew up. You got a teenager in the room with a 3-year-old. Again, this is all about if you have flaws and imperfections, but no shame or shaming, you'll know how great it is to be yourself. Not one day have I said, Maria, go change yourself. No, not really. I don't think so. In fact, the only thing I've said is, who is going to love me is going to love me exactly how I am. And the only thing they'll be interested in is making sure I follow the laws because I'm a citizen. That's it. Other than that, they're going to stand up and stand at my side exactly in always shapes and forms, because that's what you do when you are actually accepting and or being in each other's lives. So to me, I hear all those people saying, no, people improve each other. If you got taught well, you didn't need improvement. I got raised with equanimity. I got raised in a child-centric environment. I got raised to learn how to stand up for me and then to be respectful for others. I didn't need others to teach me anything. In fact, what I've learned is that Cusco's all over the place want to think they can teach people things. They're all not knowing how to be equanimous from their heart. They don't know how to be a blank slate. They don't even know half of the Zen master with laundry. He doesn't know anything. He wears a title that he doesn't deserve because he doesn't know mindfulness. He doesn't know Zen. Otherwise, he wouldn't talk about emotions like laundry. But remember, please, I'm in the Enlightenment Soul Age group. He's not. This is where the soul age groups had me make sense of why some people are still in certain places. So he's still learning about himself, which is why he's an insecure attachment person, if you will. These are not fixed. These are ways for me to give you concepts. So that's a person who doesn't know how to be his true self yet, because his 0 to 8 is not being tended to. He didn't learn how to self-regulate. He's not using his prefrontal, so it's not a race. It's not something you have to do, this 5D collective. No, you come if you enjoy loving and living and hoping. Nope, we don't hope. We say we love to love and we love to live and we love to laugh and we love to dance. I love to love. So it's only if you really enjoy intelligence, creative expression, successful entrepreneurship, open-heartedness, loving the bejesus out of all. Oh, delight and bliss. So polyamory, come on over, because so solo poly with secure attachment, but monoamory, come on over too. Secure attachment is the differentiating factor because, again, we don't heal trauma with the wrong people, but also life's too short to spend it with any of Cusco's, in your life. I know you're right. I might be crazy, but it might just be a lunatic you're looking for. Remember, it's the songs, the tunes, okay? So Billy Joel and young at heart, fairy tales may be true. It may happen to you when you're young at heart. So you don't want somebody who's humbug. What do you need to do with humbug? You want to do, what's the other one? When the rhythm wants to sway, break with me, slake, or however the words are. You know what I'm talking about. So again, thanks for stopping by. We will be back with more choosing unconditional love and choosing how to be oneself. Always fun. See you again soon.